The courtroom was filled with tension as Ms. Kirby and Mr. Johnson stood before Judge Lake in a paternity dispute case. Ms. Kirby claimed that Mr. Johnson was the father of her son, Cayden, who was struggling with health issues. But Mr. Johnson denied paternity, stating that Ms. Kirby was trying to pin a child on him that wasn't his. As the court delved deeper into their complex relationship, secrets were revealed, accusations were made, and the truth finally came to light. This is the story of how one man's denial was no match for science and how a father finally stepped up to his responsibilities. Ms. Kirby and Mr. Johnson appeared in front of Judge Lake in a paternity dispute case. Ms. Kirby claimed that Mr. Johnson was the father of her 11-month-old son, Cayden, and she needed him to step up and be a father because her son was struggling with health issues. Mr. Johnson denied paternity, stating that Ms. Kirby was trying to pin a child on him that wasn't his. He also claimed that Ms. Kirby's accusations were causing issues in his current relationship. Judge Lake asked Ms. Kirby if she was trying to pin the baby on Mr. Johnson, to which she denied and said she was only trying to get her baby situated because he had health issues. Mr. Johnson stated that they engaged in intimate activity, but it was limited to that, and there was no further involvement, and he was not the father. Ms. Kirby said that they planned the baby together, and he had told her that she was going to be his baby mother. When Judge Lake asked Mr. Johnson if he grew up with a father in his life, he said no. He mentioned that he was premature and spent 6 months in the hospital. While he was in the hospital, his father abandoned him and his mother. Mr. Johnson said that he would never do that to a child, but he was convinced that Cayden was not his biological child because the baby did not look like him. Ms. Kirby disagreed, saying that both she and the baby were light-skinned. Judge Lake asked how they met, and Mr. Johnson said that they worked together and during a blackout, they decided to go to the store together. Ms. Kirby denied his story, stating that she was already dating someone else. Judge Lake questions Mr. Johnson about how he and Ms. Kirby began their relationship. Mr. Johnson admits that they met in a car and started talking about what they would do in bed together. He says that they exchanged numbers and began the next day. However, he also reveals that Ms. Kirby had told him that she was having fun with another man at the same time. Ms. Kirby admits that she was indeed seeing another man and that she had told Mr. Johnson about it. However, she claims that Mr. Johnson knew from the beginning that she was seeing someone else. She says that Mr. Johnson only became interested in her when he found out she was pregnant. Mr. Johnson admits that he found out about the pregnancy through social media and contacted Ms. Kirby to ask if he was the father. At first, Ms. Kirby denied that he was, but then she changed her story and told him that he was. Mr. Johnson went to her house to find out the truth and to see if he could be involved in the child's life. Ms. Kirby accuses Mr. Johnson of not doing anything for Cayden since he was born. But Mr. Johnson claims that he only stopped because she had initially denied that he was the father. The court continues to hear testimony from both sides in order to determine the paternity of the child. Judge Lake asked Ms. Kirby if she had informed the other man she was with about the pregnancy, to which Ms. Kirby replied yes. Ms. Kirby then explained that she had calculated the conception date, and it was around the time she had sleeping with Mr. Johnson. However, Mr. Johnson pointed out that Ms. Kirby was also involved with another man, and the audience gasped in shock. Ms. Kirby defended herself, saying that she used protection with the other man, but not with Mr. Johnson. Judge Lake reminded her that no protection is 100% effective. Ms. Kirby revealed that her family had supported her during her pregnancy and birth, but Mr. Johnson had not been there for her. Mr. Johnson, however, claimed that Ms. Kirby did not want him to be there and only called him for fun and food. He also accused her of lying about the baby needing things. Judge Lake asked Mr. Johnson if he had any relationship with Cayden, and he admitted he had not seen him in person, only on video chat. Ms. Kirby admitted that Mr. Johnson was not the only man she was involved with during the time of conception but still wanted him to have a relationship with Cayden. When she got in touch with Mr. Johnson, she hoped he would respond, but he did not, which hurt her. To clear up the confusion, the court brought in Dr. Samantha Brown Parks to explain albinism in more detail. She explained that albinism is a rare disease and that both parents carry an abnormal gene that could lead to the birth of an albino child. After hearing her testimony, Mr. Johnson still denied being the father. However, the DNA results proved that Mr. Johnson was, in fact, the biological father of Cayden. He eventually accepted the results and promised to step up to his responsibilities as a father. This story teaches us the importance of taking responsibility for our actions, especially when it comes to the consequences of our decisions. It also reminds us of the significance of getting the right information and educating ourselves on matters that affect our lives and the lives of others. To young people, always remember that the choices you make today will impact your future, so make informed decisions and be prepared to take responsibility for them.